When you got into the real estate industry, you were lied to. I was lied to. People told us we were good looking and charming and that real estate was just going to be easy for us. Well, they didn't lie about the good looking and charming part. You all are that. But we were lied to about the fact that this industry is just going to be easy. That just because we have the looks and charm, that we're going to just be able to wake up and find that type of success that we're looking for. And the good news is that even though we were lied to, there is still a path in which makes all of those dreams come true. And so that's what we're here to talk about today is Sam and I have had just tremendous amount of experience in the real estate industry, working in several different areas. And we have come up with what we believe is the strongest blueprint for you to hit your goals in the shortest amount of time possible. And if you're somebody who's just started in the real estate industry or has been around for a while and you feel like things are hard right now, you're not alone. And the feelings that you're having are legitimate. So you'll see here on this chart in 2019, we had kind of what we consider a balanced amount of home sales in 1 year at 5.34 million. In 2021, we had the COVID market where things were just selling left and right. We saw a huge boom up to over 6 million. Well, since that year in 2021, we've just seen record low numbers in national home sales. 2023, 2024, and 2025 broke the record of 1985 of the least amount of home sales per year. And in 1985, they were dealing with 18% interest rates. We all think we have it tough now with 6%. 1985, you were selling homes, you had 15 to 18% interest rates you were dealing with. And so it was pretty wild. And so the fact that we have these record low numbers and we're all just trudging through the mud to get the same results that we're getting in a normal market. And Sam, I don't know if this stat here is true, but it's pretty wild. NAR came out and said that 85% of realtors are not doing much business. And so I know this kind of strikes a chord for you. Can you kind of tell us what you think about when you see these type of numbers in the real estate industry?
Yeah, sure. The thing you want to see here is most agents, about 85%, are hitting between zero. Well, 71% was zero, means they didn't do any transactions as a licensed real estate agent. And then you had another 15% that were 1 to 4. And so the 5 to 9 on up, that is, guys can see the percentages here. So that means most of the people are in our industry last year did not make money, right? It was high failure rate, high frustration. And so how do you do a couple of things with this? A, how does that person put away money for savings? How do they have an emergency fund? How do they save for retirement? And are they winging it in the industry? I'd love to know. And I interview a lot of agents. I'm talking to a lot of agents, so are you, Kyle. We're talking to people out there. You always wonder, like, what are those people? What's the difference between the people that are doing, a 1 to 300 sides a year or 50 to 99 and, all those numbers that we see in that top, basically 10% echelon. What are they doing that the people at the bottom or in the bottom 85% who aren't making it? What's the difference between the two? And how do we create opportunity for people to move from that bottom two rows there up into the higher rows? And I think the 6-figure blueprint offers that because it basically gives you the systems and the help, the coaching that you need to kind of start to move up and to start to increase things over time. This is really important to me because, in coaching a lot of agents over the years and real estate investors, there's like these obstacles that get in their way. And, usually it's what's between their ears. We all have the same 24 hours. It's just, what are we doing with that time? And I think that's why it's important to have a roadmap. You got to have a roadmap, and then you got to have some help, right? I talk about this a lot, when you started riding a bike. Usually most people didn't just start riding a bike without falling down and scraping up their head. Usually, parents usually have them ride a bike with training wheels, right? Or the smaller bike and then migrate up, up into a larger bike. Or think about when you went swimming for the first time. I know some parents just threw you in the water and it was sink or swim, which happens with a lot of brokerages. Hey, sink or swim. You should talk to your sphere of influence, right? just go for it. That's not a reality. It's not how this works. We need, usually, someone has some swimming lessons, or they have someone in the water, and there's floaties. I call those training wheels. And that's what you need to move from those bottom two rows. You need that extra help, systems, coaching, and a roadmap for you to hit those higher numbers. The people at the top are already doing these things. They don't need people like us, right? Matter of fact, they're probably competing with us. We're competing for the same deals. They're doing everything we're going to talk about today. They're already doing it. So our goal really is to help those people that aren't there yet get there.
I think that last part is what sticks out to me too, is there is a group of people who have figured this out, and it's the smaller group. And we see here these people in this 10 to 19 deals and up are the people in these six-figure businesses. That's the smallest percentage group of this entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. What was that 1% right there at the top? If you go back,
1.5% there, yeah.
Yeah, those are the superstars. They got huge machines going. But they've built that over time. Usually, someone doesn't become a hero day one, right? You gotta sort of earn your stripes.
Earn your stripes. And if you're in that 0 to 4 transaction range, chances are that you aren't full time in real estate, because that's not enough deals to have things coming in unless you're in that good old Newport Beach real estate market there, like Sam. So the reality is, if you're in that 0 to 4 deal range, you're doing the hustle, you're doing the grind. Probably have something like Uber or bartending, paying the bills so that you can continue to spend time on getting your real estate business up and running. And I think when I talk to most agents, Sam, especially experienced agents, they all say the same thing: is I know how to service clients. I know how to help my clients win at a great level. I just need to get into the appointments. And so what we're talking about here today is setting up the part of your business that's the business and is going to really build the foundation. So that way you can get to a point where you are living in that space you want to be at, serving clients at a high level, showing amazing properties, and helping other people realize their real estate goals.
Well, I'm going to comment on this. A lot of people think that they're going to get their real estate license and everybody's going to use them, their friends and families, which doesn't happen a lot, right? The pie in the sky, they think things are just going to fall in their lap. That's not how this works. You have to grind in the beginning. You got to get out of your comfort zone. I always say money lives on the other side of fear. And it does, and you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Otherwise, you just blend in, you're mediocre. So how do we do that? And that's what we're going to talk about today is don't think that you're going to get your license and things are just going to fall in your lap. Once in a while, you get lucky, but rare. Now, usually you're having to grind and you're competing. You always have competition. It's one thing I found in the business, usually if someone's talking to me about listing their home or buying, whatever I'm doing with that situation, it's the greatest problem solver that wins in the end, and the person that can differentiate themselves. And you have to be likable. Someone, if they don't like you, they're not going to do business with you regardless. So you got to earn that trust. And I think part of this is, understanding how not to have social miscues, or you got to learn the language. And that's where scripting and role playing comes in. We'll talk about that.
And so the 5 pillars that we've created to build the perfect 6-figure real estate business starts with mindset. And then once you have your mind right, it builds into getting the right schedule to be successful, then focuses in on the right amount of lead generation in your business to get the right amount of people to work with. Then how do you nurture those? And then eventually, how do you get to a point where conversion is all you're thinking about in your business, and you're able to really focus on those key pivotal moments, like Sam said, where you're solving these big real estate problems. And so the thing that you have to get first is really your mindset. And Sam, we talked a little bit about this morning before we hopped on, was getting active and finding that success first. Can you kind of go dive into how people can fail forward and start to get into that mindset?
Yeah. So one thing, a lot of authors and people that are influencers will tell you have this super high goal. So you come into the industry, you just got your license. Now people are setting a goal to make $300,000 a year. But if you've never made a 6-figure income, your brain is set up to protect you from everything that is scary. So your brain is there to keep you alive, right? And so survival is everything. So if you have to do uncomfortable things, your brain is going to go, no. So really, when you try to set yourself up to make 300,000 year one, I just think that's sort of setting yourself up for failure. I talk to agents all the time, and they're in their first year, and their goal is $1 million. Everybody's goal should be $1 million eventually, but you got to, again, you got to earn your stripes. So how do you do this? So, a lot of times I always tell people, where are you today? Where are you at? What's the most amount of money you've made in a year? And if that number is sub six figure, so, sub $100,000, you don't believe you can make $100,000, right? So you have to have some level of success to gain the believability. And how does that come? It comes through action and success, right? And that success breeds confidence. Success breeds more success. So I use a lot of analogies like fishing. If you're out fishing all day and it's terrible, it's hot, and you're out there, you're not getting any bites, nothing's working for you, it's never fun. But all it takes is one fish, one bite, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this works, All right. So especially if you catch a fish, everybody says it's a foot bigger than it is or whatever, but that's why we call them fish stories. But that one fish leads to your ability to catch more fish. It's the same in this business. We do a lot of uncomfortable things, a lot of activities that, force you to get out of your comfort zone. And it might be 99% failure some days, but that one conversation, it happened to me yesterday. One conversation led to that's the super highlight of my day, right? Where I happened to meet somebody that was going to unlock a lot of things in the business. And I was like, wow, what a blessing. It's all from cold outreach, right? And for someone like me that's been in the business a long time, you wouldn't think, well, why is Sam doing cold outreach? He has referrals and stuff like that. And I do. But I'm only as good in this business as basically the time I spent the 30 days prior, right? So that's kind of how you think about it. So everything I do this month will lead into the next 60 to 90 days of success. And that's part of this blueprint. So activities, you got to have the action plan with some help and some coaching. And basically, once you have the fish on the line, our job is to help you reel it in, cook it, and clean it, and have a great meal, right? So that you can go out and do it again and share in that success in the future. But again, this is all about believability. Your brain, your inner self, your conscious is telling you can't do it. So you got to prove to yourself that you can. Little success, baby steps, day by day. The problem is what happens is most people, do it for a little bit and then they just quit because it doesn't work. That's not true. That's why there's that 1-2% up there that are killing it financially. What are they doing? Learn from us. Learn from the people that I've always believed in mentorship. Kyle, you pay for mentorship, so do I. It's something we pay for. Because somebody's proven that they can do it better than me. Why wouldn't I just listen? And is my ego so great that I can't listen to somebody else? No, there's always someone better than us. Can you learn from them? All of us could use a mentor. Even the mentors, believe me, if you talk to a mentor, they're paying some crazy amount of money from someone that's done it better than them.
I'm paying over 6 figures a year on mentorship.
Yeah. Yeah. And isn't that crazy? So the person that's running a very successful business, a very successful brokerage, I mean, this machine here is amazing. And you're paying 6 figures for mentorship. And guess what? I get to be a part of that, which I love. So I'm very appreciative for that.
Yeah. And so as part of all of this is, like Sam said, we have to create those little wins day in and day out and start to stack those wins one after another. And so as part of this blueprint, we've created this action plan to create a winning mindset, in which along the top, you have your 3 objectives that you're focused on. So really important, only have 1 to 3 objectives at a time that you're really honed in and locked into getting accomplished on a day to weekly basis. Because if you have too many things, you're chasing too many rabbits, you're going to catch none. So we have to get hyper focused on what are these objectives day in and day out. They're going to actually move the needle for us. Have a very clear, concise goal of what we're going to do each day, and then record our stats of us actually hitting those goals. And what will be created in the end is stacked, irrefutable evidence that we all know how to win on a daily basis. And the size of those wins will incrementally grow over time. Sam, do you do anything for yourself to kind of track your own mindset, track your own little wins as you continue through these different journeys and growth periods that you go through?
I do. I set daily goals. I set annual goals, and usually I have some short term. It's all about goal planning. How can you hit a target you can't see? So you got to have goals. And so I have a little thing I do where I fill out a note card every day. And these are top priorities, and there's less priorities, and I never get to all of them, very rarely. Yeah. So mindset for me is very important. I'm a spiritual guy, so I start in the Word every day, and then I do that first, so I can lead into the money stuff. So then the second part is usually, something along the lines of Think and Grow Rich, or one of the books that we read. So I go there. So that's how I get my mindset in the right place. And then I go into my goal. I look at my goals, and I take a peek at them, and then I write daily goals on top of it. But all those are chunking goals so that I can achieve the bigger goals. And like, if we look at this, 10 conversations, I better have 10 conversations. And the way we look at conversations in this business is at least a 2-minute conversation with somebody. That's where it actually qualifies. Because if I call someone, they don't answer, or they hang up on me or whatever, that's not a combo, right? That's a rejection. And sometimes 2 minutes can be, when people are busy, 2 minutes could be a lot. So you want to have at least, as a baseline, 10 conversations a day. That, if you're doing that, you're going to have success. And then we constantly are adding to our database, our sphere of influence. And as you meet these new people and you have great conversations, they become a part of that sphere. That marketing. And then the zero inbox love. So we use a great CRM in our business called Follow Up Boss. If you're doing what you're supposed to, you have tasks every day, because every time you talk to someone, you got to set a future task to reach back out to them. And when we say zero inbox, it means you've actually cleared all those tasks daily. And the great thing about having a system, and especially in today's market, is you can actually schedule those tasks. You can do it the night before. You can send the email, schedule it, send the text, schedule it. And that's why I love having a system like that in place, to where you can do it. Sometimes I'm doing it the night before, right? Late at night, couple minutes. I know that's going to help me have a zero inbox. If I'm not calling them and it's an email or text, I can do that in the future and set myself up for success. Anyway, getting into that mindset, guys, though, but just always start off your day with gratitude and a positive mindset. It's really hard to have a negative day if you're starting off your mind with, maybe some exercise, some positive, something positive in the morning. It's hard to have those negative goggles on. Some people get on their phone, they're listening to all the news of the world and all the terrible stuff that are happening. Don't do that. It's just a distraction. I always say keep blinders on and just keep going forward. There's nothing you can do about what's happening in the world. Focus on what you can control. I love this win the day, right? Because what's the first thing you have on there? You have a role play. Why on earth would someone try to wing it with a potential client and have failure on an objection when you could have role played that several times? And I mean, this is something I believe in wholeheartedly. Role play is such an important part of our business, because we get to you can throw every objection at somebody and you've actually experienced it. So when it comes up on the fly, it's simple. You're not pausing and umming and oohing and getting stuck, right? You just go, oh, boom, this is how we handle that. So role play, crucial. And MLS review, do you know your market? Do you know what's going on with data in your market? You got to know where prices are. There are a lot of up arrows, there are a lot of down arrows. What's going on? For those that don't have access to the MLS, use AI. AI will be out there. It'll kind of tell you what's going on with an area. Obviously, you can use the Redfin and the Zillow and all the other websites, but MLS review as agents is super important. And the most important there is lead generation. So where are we getting leads, Kyle? I mean, let's talk about that a little bit, because I just think leads. People always say, oh, they don't give us enough leads. There's not enough leads. I hear this excuse from a lot of realtors and people in the investor world as well. There's not leads. There's more leads than we could ever get to.
So there's really an endless amount of leads out available to us in the world. But what we have to do first is get really clear on what is a good lead for us. So we have to get very clear first on what's our avatar that we're looking to serve. If you're an experienced agent, this is going to be probably look like your top 3 favorite clients you've ever worked with. If you're a brand new agent, you have to use a little bit more creativity here, a little bit more imagination of who you're going to want to work with in the future. Once you have a clear vision of who you're going to work with, that person has a problem in their life that you're looking to solve. And so what's the problem that you help them solve? And once you get clear again on the problem that you're helping people solve, now you have to have your hook that attracts them to calls out essentially that problem. And then you have your story about how you've helped those clients in the past who have that same problem. And then you're able to reach out to people with this information. And there's just so many different ways, so many different places that we can reach out to for lead generation. And we have a couple slides later on that shows like a funnel of where these different leads are at in different places in the funnel. But everybody's business should have 2 to 4 places within the funnel that they're actively generating leads, whether those be from warm outreach, cold outreach, ads, or content. And those are the 4 ways you're going to create those leads from those different places in the funnel.
So I want to talk about this a little bit more in that I've always taught that you're 8 to 12 if you're full time. If you're part time, you're not going to do 8 to 12. Obviously, you have a 9 to 5. You can't be doing this while you're working, hopefully. Anyway, but if you're a full timer, 8 to 12 are precious, precious hours of prospecting. And you want to chunk your day. If you're part time, you got to chunk it, right? So as you look here, I know I'm 8 to 12 is that timeline that I know I'm going to be prospecting and making my calls, whether I'm driving, whether I'm at home or at the office. That's those precious hours that you never want to give up, right? And there's 80% of chaos in the world, but there's 20% success. So you got to focus on that 20% that makes you successful. And those precious hours in the morning are doing that. And then in the afternoon, obviously, you're doing more meetings with homeowners and you're going and checking on properties and stuff like that, showing homes. But those morning hours, as you've seen, that's why it's labeled out here, right? So you see what's going on in those morning hours. The rest of the day is a little more open. And then you see networking there. I can't stress networking enough. Twice a week at least, you should be going to some networking event. And I get it, guys. People have kids and sports and all the things that, are difficult to work around. And so if you have kids, maybe you do once every 2 weeks, you go to a networking event, but these strategy sessions, masterminding, these are all things that keep us motivated. And going to events, sometimes you see other people that aren't as good as you doing better than you. And you can go, if that person can do it, I can surely do it. But, this is a roadmap for your day. So prospecting, and some of that's some role playing, but from that 8 to 12, and then after lunch, then you're out in the field. And then if you're part-time, you got to break this up. Your lunch period might be the prospecting period. You're eating food while you're making calls. And then as soon as you get off, you're on a commute home from the job, maybe, then you're making your calls then. All right. So as you see here, you got early exercise. That's something I do in the morning now. I used to be a late night guy. I'm doing it in the morning because I like my wife to join me. So she won't do it at night. So lately she's been coming with me in the morning, and that's pretty cool. And then, and then I'm literally from the gym to my house. I'm not making my prospecting calls, but I'm kind of doing mindset stuff on like what's my approach going to be today. So my script changes daily, by the way. I try all kinds of different, kind of like fishing, try different bait, see what works. You're not going to, if you're not getting any bites with the worm, you got to try a lure or something. You got to mix it up. So I try a lot of different scripts. And so I look up what other people doing that are influencers, and you can keep it real simple. Sometimes we overcomplicate this, right? It's just, I always say this, the person that needs you doesn't care what you sound like or what you look like. The person that needs you will listen to you. And that's what you're looking for every single day. There's people praying for you to call them. They are. It's just, you need to find the right person. And so how do we do that? We got to get out and we got to reach out to people. And then usually most people that I talk to, whether they're going to sell or they're going to do, the real estate investment side, it's, you see the lead follow-up in that. We talk about this a lot. 80% of success is between the 5th and 12th contact. It just happened to me. I've been reaching out to someone for a year, and and you're always trying to create how can I be creative? What can I say this time? And on that year follow up, all of a sudden they said, "Hey, I'm ready." So a lot of it's timing. So that's why that follow up is so important. And here you can see the part time, right? School pickup, kids practice, which I know Kyle you deal with. Yeah, we were talking on the phone the other day. He goes, "Yeah, I'm doing the Uber thing for the kids, getting them to lacrosse and I think it was lacrosse and was it baseball?
Lacrosse and baseball, yeah.
Lacrosse and baseball, just split different ways, and I had to do that. My kids are grown now, so it's a little easier. But yeah, oh man, I remember I'd be in Los Angeles and I had to drive an hour and a half to get to pick up the kids by 3. It was crazy. Sometimes they were there a little later. I got popped for that. I would always get busted when I was late to pick up the kids. But yeah, it was hard. This is hard, guys. This is how you have freedom, right? Freedom of time. Yeah, we work. I get up and I treat it like a job. I don't treat it like it's a hobby. Most of those people that you see that aren't making any money, unfortunately, they're just sort of treating it like a hobby. You got to treat it, if you're going to be self-employed, you got to treat it just like a normal I can't tell you how many people think, aren't you sitting at the beach sipping Mai Tais? I'm like, no, man, I get up and work. I'm hustling, I'm on the phone all day. I'm commuting. I'm going to appointments. That's what you do. But I love to talk about this because Kyle, you have kids in sports. When they get to that next level in high school becomes very competitive, and then college and things like that, right? It gets harder and harder. Little league and stuff like that, or the lower levels. Everybody kind of gets to participate. There's no cuts unless you're in travel ball. When I remember being able to be present when my son was trying out for his high school baseball team, and he was a little undersized. I didn't know if he was going to make the team. I knew he was good, but I didn't know if he'd make it. I remember every parent, when your kid's trying out for something, you're a little bit afraid. But I was one of 3 parents that was at the tryouts. One of them worked nights. One of them was a business owner, and there was me. And I was kind of looking around going, wow, nobody's here because they can't be here at this time of the day. They're at their job, right? And so my goal is to get everybody that's listening here to experience the freedom of time. Yeah, I work hard, but I get to go on some nice vacations too, right? And I know, my goal is always, if I can vacation 12 weeks out of the year and work the rest, I don't have any, we all want to retire, but if you treat this right, it sort of is like being semi-retired sometimes, but you got to do the hard stuff. So yeah, if you're grinding the day and you're a part-timer, I was part-time for 4 years. I used to be an elementary school teacher, and I worked as a teacher, and I did this all around that. Sometimes I'd be making calls from the bathroom and there'd be an echo, and people would be like, is there an echo there? And I don't know what you're talking about, but I had to do it. It's what I had to do because I couldn't do it in a classroom full of kids, right? And so to earn my freedom, I knew that I had to sacrifice, and it meant I had to, I'd get home from teaching about 5 o'clock, and I'd drive to the office and start doing my prospecting and stuff. Then, I had to sacrifice, and I had little kids. It's really difficult, guys. But that sacrifice led to much bigger things. And so I was telling Kyle this morning, I was like, and I don't know if this is the place, Kyle, but we're going to tell it anyway. So with a master's degree in education, and I quit teaching quite a while ago, but I made $72,000 as a teacher with a master's degree after several years. And that was the max I had made. We haven't talked about it here, but I intertwine real estate investing with traditional real estate. I'm a big component of this, and that's part of why I'm on this, is because I like to intertwine both. I think they're very important. I flipped a house in LA on 59th Place. Only went there 4 times, made $116,000 in one check, and then I knew, right? And then because I'd never made $100,000, I always wanted, and I was like, man, back then it was like, man, if I could only make 100, right? Now everybody says 200. I think that's sort of the minimum in California. I got to make at least 200. But remember, that's that 6-figure thing. That's the glass ceiling we need to break through. And when I broke through it, all of a sudden I believed I could. And then everything got easier. And then the next glass ceiling was 200. And then the next glass ceiling was 400. And then it goes from there. People that make high incomes expect to make high incomes. When you haven't done it yet, you don't have the expectation to do that. So what we're talking about here is, yeah, if you're part-time, you got to grind. You got to sacrifice. There's no such thing as something for nothing. I think Napoleon Hill said that in Think and Grow Rich. There's no such thing as something for nothing. You're going to have to earn your stripes. You don't come into this and you're a superstar day one. But we're giving you a roadmap and the training wheels and coaching on how to be successful. It's not that difficult. It's just follow the plan. I call it the play. Just follow the play. Run the play.
The play.
Run the play.
You got me beat there, Sam. I definitely don't think I've heard somebody grinding harder than making calls from the bathroom at their elementary school.
With people knocking on the door.
Knocking on the door, exactly. And so after we've constructed our week in a way that's very disciplined and able to create that freedom for us, It's very, very important, Sam, also that people take that day off, that day where they can disconnect. Because if we don't give ourselves space to refuel, recharge, then we're always go, 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 and you're going to burn out. And this is a game where ideas are cheap, execution, you can get lucky on execution, but consistency is the only thing that matters. And so you have to set yourself up for success with your consistency by having time for you to decompress, reset, and then attack it again the next week.
So let's talk about this. Hold on, real quick.
Okay, yeah.
I take one day off that's sacred, and that's usually Sunday, and I try to get off my phone because I am married, and when you're married, if you want to stay married, you better focus on the person you're married to and make them important. At least one day a week, guys. There's a time to put away your phone. I met with I don't know, the guy could afford a private jet recently. So I don't know how much money. He didn't tell me how much. He was buying a private jet. So I assume he was well off. And I was at his house that was his second home that was like a resort. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And he gave me this advice. He asked me, he was like, so we got on the conversation of marriage and stuff. He'd been married a long time, and I've been married 25 years anyway. And he was like, so is there any challenges? And I go, yeah, my phone never stops. I got I got an iPad. I got a watch, my Apple Watch is buzzing all the time. It's this constant chain that we're tied to these phones, and a constant distraction as well. And he goes, have you seen my phone during this meeting? I said, no. He goes, yeah, it's face down in my office somewhere. He goes, there's a time to turn it off. So when Kyle's talking about taking time out, turn your phone off, turn the chaos off so you can recuperate. Go get with nature, go on a date night, do all those things to keep your relationship strong. Be there for your kids. You have to be present. Or what was the journey for, right? You're trying to make all this money. It's no fun alone, right? So the reason why we grind and the reason why we work hard is so that we can retire and enjoy doing the things that others cannot because they failed to plan. And again, we give you this roadmap. I mean, you're not seeing it completely on here, but the roadmap is very clear. It's just about doing the right things consistently over and over until it gets easier. It does get easier. Everything that you've tried that was hard got easier with practice. But you got to practice. You got to show up. If you think of some of the best athletes we know, let's go into Michael Jordan or and Kobe Bryant, one of my favorite heroes. I remember a time where someone was asking him if he's going to meet up at the club later, and he's like, no, I'll be here. So after a game, he's back there out still practicing because he hadn't figured, he still had things to work on. We all have to continue to practice to be at the top of our game. You don't start out at the top, but you got to work towards that.
There's a story of Kobe where he was in the Olympics, and I forget the two guys who were told the story, but they said, they were going out to the club one night and they got back to the hotel real late, like 3:30 in the morning, and they see Kobe in the lobby, and they're like, Kobe, yo, you went out last night too? Where'd you go? What'd you do? And Kobe looks at him with the desk there that Kobe always gives, the Mamba look, and he goes, I'm just waking up. I'm headed to the gym. And and they were freaking out because they were getting back from the club, and at 3:30 in the morning, Kobe was headed to the gym, and they're like, what? We don't have practice till 7. He's like, you don't have practice till 7. I'm training right now.
Yeah. And that's what separates you from everybody else. Are you just mediocre? Are you okay being okay? I don't know about you, Kyle. I just when someone asks about me, like, hey, what do you think of Sam? I don't want them. He's all right. Yeah. I'd rather they say, oh yeah, he's a cool guy. He's this or he's that. You got to stand out. You got to basically swim upstream sometimes and go against what peer pressure and everything else is going to tell you to do, like going to the club, when you got a game the next day for the Olympics, right?
Yeah. Just a little bit of importance there.
Yeah.
So something we've always bonded over, Sam, is our love for this book, Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blount. And you were talking, it's been a few years for me since I read it, but you were reminding me this morning the 3 Ps. Can you roll us back through those 3 Ps today?
Oh, guys, the 3 Ps. Eat your peas. No. So the 3 Ps this is what really holds people back. And procrastination is the first P. You got some scary things to do. And so you keep putting it off and off because it's uncomfortable. And I know there's people listening to this that are experiencing this right now. You know, you're supposed to get on the phone. You know, you got to do the hard stuff to have the good stuff. And so procrastination is that first P. And then the second one is you have people that go into this category of perfectionism. Everything has to be just right. They got to have the perfect script. Oh, I don't like their script. Their script doesn't work. Well, it works, or we wouldn't present it to you. Obviously, it works. There is no perfect script, but people have to wait till circumstances are perfect before they feel comfortable doing something, and they just don't do it. So you got procrastination, perfectionism, and then the one that really hurts a lot of people that overthink things is basically paralysis of analysis, or we can call it analysis paralysis. But in this book, it falls under paralysis and overthinking things. So you overthink every situation, and fear just gets the best of you because you can't make a decision to move forward because you're being held back by just analysis paralysis. I always say I run through brick walls. I'm probably an idiot. I just go. If it's hard, okay, it's going to happen anyway. I might as well just run right through it. I might as well just address the issue, the elephant in the room, So whatever it is, you just got to pick up the phone. None of this is easy for guys. Cold calling sucks for us all. Door knocking sucks for us all. And I still think door knocking is probably one of the easiest things. Still sucks in the beginning because you get all the we have all the same psychological psychological responses, the fear. No matter how long you've been doing this, we all experience it. All of us. And I have some people go, oh, I don't have it. Well, I do. Every time I go, I've done door knocking for years and I teach it. And that first door knock is always, ooh, is this going to be the time where, they're going to yell at me and slam the door? But most of the time they don't. The cold calling, most people just don't answer. People that answer usually will give you, 15 seconds to kind of figure out if you're going to stumble on your words or follow a script, right? And then they're going to tell you whether they're interested or not. And those that need you are going to talk to you. Those that don't, they're not ready for you. It's not the right time. So you can overthink the 3 Ps, but prospecting is all about doing the uncomfortable things and not worrying. Run through the brick wall. Just run through. Just go.
And as we get into lead generation and thinking about, whether it be door knocking or making the calls, the only 3 things you have to consider is, what are you going to say? Who are you saying it to, and how many times you say it? And if you have an answer for all 3 of these things, then it's all about just doing the work, getting the reps in, and having the conversations, because all conversion lives in that conversation. And Sam, earlier you asked me about the lead generation and where can we look to start generating leads. Well, what I recommend to agents is they take a look at all the lead generation channels available to them, and they pick 2 to 4 channels and go extremely deep on them. And then how you pick those channels is going to really depend on what you're looking to accomplish and how fast you need to get it done. So as we look at a sales funnel, we can kind of start to predict, based upon which lead source they come from, how quickly they'll transact, because on average, they enter in that place in the funnel. So like, for example, expired listings and for sale by owners, they have a literal billboard in their front yard saying, look at me, I want to transact in the next 30 days. I have a billboard screaming it from the rooftops. And so if we need to get paid quickly, we should be going after those channels. And if we're somebody who's more looking to build for the long term, we should be looking more at building through our sphere of influence and getting really deep on those relationships. And ultimately, you want to have a blend of each, but you don't want to overdo it. So that's why I say 2 to 4. And Sam, I tell the story of Kevin, my business partner. He's sold over 50 million in real estate every year for the past 5 years.
That's next level. Yeah.
That's next level, right?
Yeah.
And so this is really interesting because most agents, when you ask them what lead pillars do they work, they'll list off a bunch of lead pillars. Well, Kevin sold 50 million for 5 years straight every year. He only has 2 lead pillars. He has past clients and he has open houses, and he will not do anything else. So we started getting Zillow leads in Pebble Beach. It's a big market with, $20 million, $50 million homes. I was like, hey, Kevin, do you want to start taking Zillow leads just only in Pebble Beach? He said, no, thank you. It's not open houses and it's not past clients.
Let's talk about this a little bit. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the SOI, the sphere of influence. And let me tell you this. I have 4,500 contacts, which I lost recently and just got back in my phone, 4,500. And if you divide that by however many days you're going to work, what's your magic number? You say we work 220? Is it
2080 is hours.
2080 is hours? How many days? We take a couple weeks off a year.
2080 divided by 8 would
Let's
be
just say
206. It's 260.
Okay, so 260 days, you just divide the amount of contacts you have in your phone by 260, and you should be reaching out to that many people daily. So if I did that on 4,500 divided by 260, I can't get to those people every day. It's too many. So some people might have 300 contacts in their phone. You're always going to be adding to that. That's where you're starting. That's fine. That's your starting place. There's another part of this that people forget. You have to understand that every person you know has 100 to 200 people they would invite to their wedding or funeral, right? Let's focus on wedding. So they'll focus on their most important day of their life, their wedding. Okay. I call it taprooting. So taprooting is you use your sphere of influence to ask for referrals to everybody they know. And then you can repeat the process. So the reason why I have so many contacts is I'm constantly, if there's probably people listening, I did this week. I was like, hey, I want you to send me so many people that you know that might want to work with me, right? That are really good people, that are successful people. Who do you know that might want to work with me? And they each sent me 2 or 3 people. So I just taprooted that person's top people. So yeah, I call it taprooting. And so that's an old term in sales. But yeah, so your sphere of influence leads into, so he's talking about past clients, and I don't know if you want to talk about how he gets those past clients. There's some secret sauce there, but we have some secret sauce in this group that absolutely feeds into past clients. There's some secret sauce in this group, and I'm not doing this on purpose, but there's the reason why there's so many past clients. It's because we have a system that generates a lot of that for us here that leads into future sales, which is really cool. And then obviously he uses the open houses, which I don't. That's not my thing. Yeah. But he swears by them. And, but he does, what does he do? Two at least on Saturday, every Saturday or something?
When he's feeling dry, he'll do 4 a weekend. But what he likes to do is 2 a weekend. He likes to do 2 on Saturday, 2 hours blocks.
But guys, you just have to pick 2. Just like you said, there's more leads than we could ever get to in a day. People always tell me, "Oh, I don't have anybody to call." I'm like, "How do you not have people to call? They're everywhere." I don't know. So this is the part that I just think it's that fear kicking in when there's plenty of tools for you. Social media. Yeah. How about DMing people on social media? You can sit in a dark closet and text people you don't have to go out in public. Some people are afraid to go out and do networking events and stuff like that. Social media allows you to completely escape all that and have conversations with people behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
I don't know if you want.
All right. And then after we've generated these leads, it's just mind-boggling to me, Sam, that we go through all this work, all of that fear that we overcome. We get on the phone, we finally start having conversations, and then most agents don't follow up. 48% of people, once they generate a lead, don't follow up a single time. And then we know that 80% of sales are made from the 5th to 12th contact. So how can we kind of really design our schedule, design our mindset around this?
Well, knowing these statistics is an eye opener. When it says 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact, what does that tell you? You have to do, like, my campaigns are 8 weeks, and it's rinse and repeat, right? So there's going to be 8 points of contact, right, over an 8-week period, right, with every client and then we switch them into a different bucket if they say, hey, I'm going to wait a year or so or whatever. You got to listen to their timelines. But the magic is in the 5th through the 12th. Most people stop after the 3rd. I know that because I've studied this. Most people will try 3 times and they're like, it doesn't work. It does. Just remember, everybody has their own time for when they need something. I told someone cold called me yesterday and I was like, man, if you had called me 2 weeks ago, it would have been perfect. You just missed the time, right? I would have needed you 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, now, I don't. So it's all timing. And the great thing about our systems today is, in the old days, you just would pick up an old dial phone and you'd be dialing people. You didn't have email, you didn't have text, you didn't have ringless voice drops. You didn't have the things that we have today that you can set up in advance and do actual campaigning. That makes, and AI is making things easier because it'll create the content for you, right? Mm-hmm. Especially smart AI. Smart AI listens to all your conversations and it already knows what you're supposed to say, so, but yeah, this is something that I always say the fortune is in the follow-up. Anybody that's listening to this, that's known me for years, I always say it. The fortune is in the follow-up. It's the key. And how many times people I've door knocked and they go, "Oh no, I don't have an issue. I don't have a need." And then, a month later, they're like, "I lied. I really need you. I'm sorry," and just in the moment. And it's because I caught them by surprise. Everybody's geared to say no when someone knocks on their door or cold calls them. We're all geared that way, but then they really need us. So if you didn't continue to follow up, you wouldn't know and you'd miss that opportunity. And a lot of times what happens is that house that we were marketing to, it's listed by somebody else because they did what they were supposed to at the right time. That is the most frustrating thing on the face of the planet, because you just kick yourself. You're like, dang, I know that was mine. I had it. And I let it slip through my fingers because I didn't follow up. We're all guilty of it.
Sam, you ever heard the term buyers are liars?
No.
So there's a term out there that buyers are liars, and the term is completely wrong. Buyers aren't liars. They just don't trust you yet.
Yeah.
And it's because you had one 5-minute conversation to set an appointment, and you went and met with them for 45 minutes at their house. That did not build trust. Contacts 5th through 12 are what created that trust, with you saying you were going to follow through and continuously doing it, and then them having time after time the opportunity to experience you and what you represent, not just the things you say, but how you portray yourself. Those nonverbal cues that you create through 12 different contacts, that's what actually builds that trust.
Add on to that and say you separate yourself out from probably 99% of the other people trying to reach out to them when you follow up, and then have a unique selling proposition. Have something that separates you from everybody else, because otherwise you just blend in. So it's one thing for them to like and trust you, but it's a whole other thing. Do they need the service that you're, because if you're terrible at what you do, that's probably not going to go over well. So make sure you're following the rules of success and have a unique selling proposition, something that just makes you a little better than the competition. I usually give options. So that's what mine is, right? I give different options to people. I like options. I don't like someone just shoving what they want down my throat. So another conversation.
So I heard this stat this week, Sam. So the company Shiloh is an AI company that we partner with. They analyze calls and give coaching and feedback based upon what's happening in our conversations. And they said, I can't unsee this. They said that from all the data and calls that they've analyzed for lots of teams across the country, like probably billions of hours of talk time, they said that there's a 5.7 times more likelihood of you getting to the final conversion if you did this one thing on your calls. That one thing was, at the end of your call, set a specific next step at the end of the call. Not, hey, let's talk in a couple weeks. Hey, I'll reach back out soon. Not that. The way you have to frame it is, hey, Sam, let's connect tomorrow to discuss the properties that I just sent you. Is morning or afternoon better for you to connect? Specific time. And the agents who had that were significantly more successful, and that led to that success. Just pretty mind-boggling to me, that one thing that people need to change in their calls to find that success.
That is great advice. And the one thing that you just did that you didn't know you did is you turned on my RAS filter by using my first name. So when you use that person's first name, their reticular activating system kicks in. They pay attention for the next 5 seconds, which is all you needed to set the next expectation, right? So most people don't know that. Use people's first name often in the conversation because it continuously reels them back in a world of chaos that we're all highly distracted by. Our attention span is super short. So if you're going to do that and then learn how to do things like do this with your head, right? The body language. So use the little tricks of the trade. The RAS filter is using their first name. Start nodding your head if they're on a video call, right? You can't do that on a phone call. It's not the same. But when you're in front of people, you start doing that type of thing. But even when we nod our head on a phone call, it's allowing you to keep that process going, because sometimes you're not sure where to go next. And what do they say about, like, most salespeople never ask for the sale, right? They never ask for the appointment. Yeah. And in our system, that's part of what we do. The final step is you got to ask for the appointment always. And Shiloh, what he's talking about with Shiloh, it's actually an AI grading system. And man, sometimes I don't like the grade I get on these calls, Kyle. But
sometimes I'm ready to throw down. I'm like, what? 4? Yeah, that was perfect.
I did great, right? I did great on that one. But hey, the fortune is in the follow-up. And this is, obviously when a lead is hot, that's when you're communicating with them the most. And then as time goes on, you're going to get to a point where it could be, once per quarter, right? but at least if they need you, they know that you exist. The last thing you want someone to do is go, "Hey, who was that guy I talked to that one time?" Well, it's because you're not top of mind. You haven't stayed in contact.
When we talk about staying in contact and the value of following up, we have to have two different plans. We have to have a one-to-one plan, which is what we're talking a lot about today. But we have to have a one-to-many. So how are we showing up in our advertisements, our emails, and our social media? And so what we've found, Sam, internally is my favorite thing that we do is for one-to-many is we have this deal of the week email where every single week, everybody in our database gets this email where it has the city they're located in dash deal of the week, and it highlights at a high level what that property is all about. And then notice in this email though, you don't see the address and you don't see pictures and you don't see links. And the reason why is because, like I said before, all conversion lives in conversation. So the only way to get more information about this property is to just hit reply and to start a conversation about it. And that becomes a one-to-many strategy. So deal of the week is something that you can implement in your business, or it can be something else on this connection spectrum. But all that's important is that you have a plan for one-to-one and you have a plan for one-to-many. And then all of this leads to kind of really is this conversion, that end zone line that we all want to get to, because only the first place gets paid. And so how do we make sure we're in that spot and ready to convert? And something that I see a lot with newer agents, Sam, is that they try to become this image of a person that they've seen maybe on a TV show or maybe a realtor they've met with in the past. They try to become that person instead of who they uniquely are and what makes them special. And so my biggest advice for people as they go into conversion, there's all kinds of scripts and tactics and strategies. But number one is just like relax, be yourself, and go have fun and make friends, because it's a relationship business. And at the end of the day, I personally do business with people I like. And I know that the people I do business with only do business with me because they like to do business with me. So you have to go deep on those relationships. And if you can just go out there and make friends, everything else becomes a little bit easier.
So I want to comment on this, because people have a really difficult time calling strangers. It is, for most, that's the fear side. Go put on a costume. If you're on a phone call, they don't see you. Go put on sunglasses and a wig or a mask or something and become another character. Maybe you can speak in a different accent. Do whatever you have to do to make it easier for yourself. I often have a mirror because sometimes it helps just even dress up. Like you dress a little nicer that day and you feel a little different when you dress up, and smile and dial, man. You're just smiling, and you have to be able to smile when somebody, when like that person who called me yesterday, they cold called me to see if I needed roof maintenance. And I go, "Oh man, so you do this all day?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, it kind of sucks." And he's like, told me that. I was like, it sucks until somebody says yes. So as soon as somebody says yes, this all changes. But that's what he did 8 hours a day. Just cold call people about, people needing roof maintenance. I go, and again, if you had called me 2 weeks ago, I had that roof fixed 2 weeks ago. But yeah. Anyway, so some of this stuff is really important. And when you have Ford, I'm sure people think that's a car. Ford is not. It is a car. That is a brand of car. But in our business, it's learning how to align with people, with family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, right? So everybody has those things. Remember, we love to talk about our kids and our families. We love to talk about what defines us is our occupation. And what do we do for fun? And then what do you dream about, right? What's next? Where are you moving? Where are you going? Where do you plan on being? So anyway, I love highlighting that one because it's the easiest way to create conversation if you focus on those things. Just one of our little secrets.
Just one of our little secrets.
Yeah, we'll give them away as we go here.
Sam, we've talked about a lot today. We've really gone down in a deep dive on how you specifically implement mindset, schedule, lead generation, lead nurture, and conversion in your business. It's been a masterclass of how you kind of utilize these things and are going to continue using in the future. Something that I know I'm really excited about is the announcement at the end of this webinar of how you're going to start helping people implement this same foundation in their business. And so would you tell us about this new project you're working on?
Yeah. So for those that don't know, I've been coaching on real estate investing and traditional sales for many, many years. I've run an academy and, done, hundreds of flips, hundreds of wholesales, hundreds of buy and holds, been a part of hundreds and hundreds of these transactions. And again, I don't want to get into that, but at least it qualifies me to teach other people, which is most important. I'm still climbing the same mountain you are, right? Everybody listening, I'm still climbing. But I've experienced this level of success because somebody mentored me. And I utilize those mentors mostly to get comfortable with just submersing myself in the business and learning along the way. So it wasn't always the coaching that was great, but I felt more confident with the success. So I've created something that's called with Joaquin here. Joaquin Manjares is working with me, and he's been doing this longer than I have. And the A team is, if you remember Mr. T and the A team, is a group of kind of misfits that all work together. And so the A team is meant to intertwine, to weave, for lack of a better term, traditional real estate with real estate investing. And that A team is going to get personally coached by Joaquin and I to make these calls, have the systems in place and the coaching and the support to be successful, not only as a traditional agent, but also as a real estate investor. For those of you that aren't making the money that you want, this is a piece that you can add to get to the next level, right? And so we are the training wheels. Matter of fact, you schedule an appointment, I will go to the appointment for you and with you until you're at a point where you can do it on your own. So the A team is something. So I'm looking for agents in particular. It's easier when you have access to the MLS because we're comping properties. I'm looking for agents that want to take it to the next level. This can be up and down the state of California. It's a little harder if you're out of the Southern California area because I can't go to those appointments. It's going to be more of a Zoom type of situation possibly. But you'll get coached on real estate investing and traditional real estate, how to find deals that no one else can find. It focuses on off market, and then we put them in the bucket that they belong. So we're solving problems, and then we place them. It's going to turn into a lot more listings. It may it may help you learn how to flip houses, wholesale, whatever the bucket needs to be. There's lots of things that come with that. So if you're interested, I'd like you to email me, sam@c2realty.com. And I'm going to interview you and see if this is something that's going to be for you and if you're a good fit, because we're doing this round 1. We start in a couple of weeks. Round 2 will be in July. And this will grow to where we probably have 50 people that are on the A team. Okay. So anyway, if you're somebody that's interested in getting coached from someone that's done all this stuff, you get Kyle's coaching. If you end up being a part of that, you do not have to change brokerages. So just know that there's no pressure to do that. I want to make that clear. If you're a part of another brokerage, we're going to work with you. But Kyle is in his group is also sponsoring us, and that's why we're talking here today. He loves the idea, and it's the great thing to work with Kyle is, you saw he flipped mobile homes, and he's got an investor mindset. They've created this machine where there's a property management arm, that's grouped in with a traditional real estate brokerage, and they work together, and it's just creates this machine that helps you make a lot more money. And so people that utilize it will be successful. And I'm just here to hold you accountable and to coach you to make sure you're successful. So if you're interested, again, email me, sam@c2realty. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I'm really going to learn about you. And this isn't about me telling you what you have to do. It's about, okay, what's your goals? How do we make it happen together? And can I help you?
So if you're somebody who's wanting to build a 6-figure real estate business and beyond, there's kind of 2 choices you have. Number 1 is take the information that we gave today. It's all free. This is recorded. We're going to send it to you guys afterwards. We also have a PDF download that's like 20 pages long. It's an SOP of what to do. You can go and take all of that and go and do it. And if that's what you do, that's awesome. Like Sam and I have done our job. If you can take all that information and go run and create that 6-figure business, that's the option if you want to do it alone. The other option is if you want to do it together, then this is amazing choice for you. And so Sam's A team, he's going to be helping each day set you in the right mindset on a Zoom call before we go into lead generation. He's going to help you craft the exact perfect schedule that's going to fit within your schedule to make all these things work. He's then going to guide you and give you leads to lead generate on. He's going to give you the exact people to call and the scripts to say. So he's going to tell you who to call, what to say, and how many times to say it. After you get a hold of people, he's going to teach you how to nurture them. And then the goal is for you to set that appointment. Once you do set that appointment, Sam or Joaquin is going to go on that appointment with you to convert it. So again, you have 2 choices. 1, take everything that we've given you here for free, go sprint and run with it. Awesome. Option number 2, don't go alone and email Sam and get the assisted help, like with the training wheels, like he said. And the goal with one day being able to break those training wheels off and for you to ride alone. Either option is amazing and great, and we're here for it.
Sounds really good when I hear it from you, man. Like, oh my gosh. I
Hey,
wish someone had done that for me.
when you told me about it, I was fired up, man. I was like, this is freaking awesome. You were excited. You were like called me about the leads part, and I was like, wait a second, you're gonna hold people's hand through all 5 steps? I don't care about leads at all. That's to me, that's really powerful stuff. And so, really, really great, Sam. Super excited for this project. Thank you for attending, and then definitely send Sam an email if you want to participate in that 18.
Awesome. Let's make lots of money, is what I always say.
Let's make lots of money.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, lots of thank yous, no questions. So we'll go ahead and break from there. But do feel free to reach out to us if you guys have any other questions that do pop up. Thanks, Sam. Talk soon.
Good. We'll see you.